why do you think, because something that you talk about a lot on your channel is that a lot of black women aren't getting married. Like, all the other races is getting married. But for some reason, black women are not either getting married or not staying married.
Yeah.
What do you think the issue is?
Yes.
So you said that, like, it's not that the good men aren't out there, right? So where are the good men? I keep seeing the narrative that men hate women nowadays. And he was saying, well, they kind of do, because of the programming that they're getting on social media is causing the women to, you know, behave differently, kind of like what you said. So I guess my question is, are we the problem as women? What's up, everyone? Welcome to season 4 of the Womanhood series. We're going to get into a lot of good stuff. I'm very excited about this one because you have a YouTube channel where you already talk about all this stuff. So if you want to, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, so hi everyone. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much to Charity for having me. My name is Abigail. I have a YouTube channel called Proverbs 31 University, where I aim to empower black women to faith, wifehood, and proper imaging. And it's going on the 2nd year, and I'm really excited about it. I really have a heart for marriage, for black women, specifically being married, but then also everything that it takes. I believe that we have to get our faith together. We have to also get our image together. And image is not just about how we look on the outside, but just how we carry ourselves and how the world perceives us. We live in a world that is a brand-focused world, and I believe that the brand of the Black American woman has been destroyed. And so my goal is to remind us that God is with us. We are in God. We are in Christ. And that he wants us to represent him better, which is kind of what the sermon today was a little bit about.
Yeah, so, we go to the same church, which most of the people I interview go to the same church because there's so many women here with like so much wisdom. So I'm so grateful for that. But
amen.
We gonna get into it. This is gonna be good, y'all. I hope y'all are ready. And like she said, she has a YouTube video that is gonna be linked down below. So please go and check her out. She's already doing amazing things. You got books and she got a lot of stuff. Please go and check out her channel because we are about building the kingdom. Okay,
amen.
That's what all of this is about.
Amen.
So yeah, we're gonna get started with my little icebreaker that I usually do my little icebreaker of never have I ever, just, you know, so people don't feel judged. All right. So never have I ever smoked weed. I am delivered from smoking weed. Have you?
No.
Okay, and that's okay. Never have I ever dated a drug dealer. I have not dated a drug dealer. Okay. Never have I ever been to jail.
No.
Okay, love that. Okay, never have I ever slashed tires, busted windows, or damaged clothes.
No.
Okay, that's good. Never have I ever been blindly and crazy in love.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and never have I ever been to the club.
I have been to the club.
Okay. So we have different kind of women that we bring on here. You know, so we have more conservative women. Okay, and ain't nothing wrong with that. Okay, so
amen. I don't know why I didn't expect those questions, but
that's why
I remember a video where there was some interesting questions.
Yeah, every video I started like that. That's why I like to ask, have you watched the videos before we get into this?
Yeah.
No, but so did you grow up in church?
I did. I grew up in church, but I grew up in always non-denominational.
Oh, okay.
And the church that I grew up in was a mostly white Hispanic church.
Oh, wow.
I didn't really start attending a black church, a predominantly black church, until this church.
Wow.
In 2018. So I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up with a single mother. She had a really good job, put us in really good schools.
Wow.
My mom then got remarried to her husband who has passed away. Now she's a widow. But when I was around probably 8th grade, 7th grade, that's when they reconnected. They were already married, but they were separated.
Okay.
I came into the picture, and then they were still separated at that time. And then around when I became like a middle schooler, that's when they started reconnecting. He came and lived with us, and then passed away just a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I grew up very sheltered. Sheltered in the sense that my mom just really, she was watchful. She worked a lot, so she wasn't able to attend a lot of certain events and things. So there were some things that I wasn't able to have her there for because she did work a lot. But when I say sheltered, I mean I had a Christian foundation. My grandmother lived with me until I was 11, and then she passed away. She was a major influence on my life. And then I have a younger brother as well. And so I was definitely sheltered because I knew things as far as like I was watching MTV, I was watching BET, I was watching 106 in Park. Like I was watching things. That was my introduction to the secular. As far as that, my mom wasn't the type of person where it's like you can't watch certain things, but I was sheltered in the sense of I just I wasn't a dater. I didn't date. I've been with my husband since we were together in high school. He was my first boyfriend, and we've been together since then. So sheltered in that way. I did go to the club. I would say a lot of my exposure would be just friends that I had that didn't have the similar life as me. So if they went to the club, I went to the club, or that kind of stuff, that kind of exposure. But even then, I always felt like I was just set apart in some way.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm hearing you say. Like more so set apart, not sheltered. You know what I'm saying?
Set apart in some way.
Shelter usually has like a negative connotation to it, but it sounds like it's benefited you really well. If you ask me, it sounds.
I should have been a statistic because, and I talk about this on my channel a lot about single parent homes, single mother homes, and how I'm completely against it, and I really want Black women to get married and understand the importance of marriage, having children, wedlock, all of that stuff. My mother was a single mother, and she did work a lot, and sometimes she couldn't make events and things like that. So sometimes I would be left to myself to watch certain things that I may not have been watched. So although I may not have been physically doing things, that doesn't mean that I wasn't exposed to things media wise, or like I said, with certain friendships that you would have in high school or middle school and stuff like that. So it's not sheltered in that way, but I will say that my mom and the faith that she instilled in me, and also my grandmother, the faith that they instilled in me really mattered and really took root. And then also I was adopted. So my mother adopted, she was in the military, and she adopted me. And when I found out about my birth family, I always knew I was adopted. She never kept that from me, which I'm happy about. But when I found my birth family, or when they found me, this is when MySpace was still popping and everything. So they reached out and connected and stuff, and I found out that my birth mother, she was in jail at that point. I don't have any contact with her now, but we did contact each other for a good while. Once we met, once we knew about each other and stuff, we never met in person. But I found out that they had a lot of craziness in that family, and so I could have been a statistic. So when I say I was set apart, I mean like God literally hit me out of a situation that could have put me in a really bad place and put me in another place. And although statistically being in a single parent home doesn't lead to the life that I have usually, meaning being married, not having multiple sexual partners, things like that. I just do still believe it was for a reason. So it was the root, and like God just really had a calling in some way.
I love that, because it's like you're proof that it's possible. So yes, I love that. This video is gonna be a little bit different. Like, I mean, I'm still gonna ask some of the same questions, but I want to get into the topics of what you talk about on your channel, because we got to have those conversations. Okay. I'm going to ask a couple of those questions though. What would you say is the difference between a girl and a woman?
Well, a girl is in the adolescent stage. A woman is in the adult stage. So just biologically, that would be the difference. But then also, I feel like it's the mindset as well. And I talk about that a lot on my channel.
Yes, you do.
The mindset. A girl mindset is different from a woman. A girl mindset is not fully developed. It's not fully mature. It's liable to repeat cycles or make the same mistakes or be blind. And then just kind of like, it's another word for it. Kind of just there's an innocence there.
Naive.
Naive. That's thank you. Naive. But there's a good thing about being a girl too. That innocence, that naivety is a part of femininity in a way.
It is.
Even as an adult. And I think a lot of times, especially because, and I don't know if this might be controversial, but I do talk about feminism a lot.
Go ahead.
And radical feminism. I'm completely against it because it has taken womanhood and the parts of womanhood, even girlhood, and it has made it negative. Because some of the things, being naive, being innocent, being soft, being like inquisitive, that kind of stuff is kind of like, oh, that's immature, and you're a woman and you kind of need to push that away, and you don't need to be like that. So a girl, going back to what you're saying, is not fully developed in the mind. And I would say a woman, outside of the biology, of course, being an adult human female, is basically someone that's more developed in the mind. Now, that doesn't mean that she's perfect, and that doesn't mean that she doesn't have cycles and have issues. But for the most part, it's like she has a little bit more discernment, a little bit more wisdom, and she's more mature, and she's going to that, she's going to that final destination of, older, elderhood. That's another thing you could call elder womanhood. So, that's what I would say the difference is. It's really in the mindset.
Man, I'm so excited about this video. I mean, I'm recording it for y'all, but this video really for me. Like, listen, I love your videos and stuff. Okay, so, all right, let's get into it. Okay, so why do you think, because something that you talk about a lot on your channel is that a lot of black women aren't getting married. Like, all the other races is getting married. But for some reason, black women are not either getting married or not staying married. What do you think the issue is?
So, plug, I have a book, it's an ebook, it's called Marriages for Black Women 2, and that's an ebook, but basically it's about, hold on one more time, www.marriagesforblackwomen2. Okay. But it's basically about that, why black women are not married. So statistically, black American women have the lowest marriage rates, and we have the highest divorce rates. And so it's only about 28% of us that are actually married. And so it's really, really low. I think it's various things. I think radical feminism and black women at one point were more married than white women. Okay, more married than white women at one point in history. And then what happened was during the radical feminist time, second wave feminist, sexual revolution, all that stuff in the late 60s, that's when marriage rates started to tank. Now it started to dip for all races of women, but it really started to tank for black women. So I think radical feminism, I think the pill is another thing. When you're on birth control, you don't have to worry about, I have to marry this man and he's got to take care of my children because I can go and have sex and do whatever I want. I can do kind of like what Apostle was talking about today, selfishness. That's really what it was. And that's what it did. When you have things like the pill, when you have baby deletion, okay, I'm not going to say the A word because I don't want you to get demonetized or whatever. But when you have those things as a form of birth control, what that does is it makes you less responsible because you're like, I can do what I want. There's no guardrail. And so I think that's the thing. I think another thing is that it hurt us, it hurt children, and it hurt men because men had to work to have sex with women. Men had to literally get married to have sex with women because at that time we were a conservative society. Now, not to say that there weren't people going crazy and doing stuff, but it wasn't in public and it wasn't publicized like it is now to do all that stuff. It wasn't something that people were saying, oh, just go and do it. You wouldn't have heard why back then. You wouldn't have heard women being, I'm gonna, liberate myself and show my body and do all this. Like, men had to work, they had to chase. And unfortunately, there's a lot of women that are like, where are the decent men? There are decent men, but a lot of other men don't feel they need to do anything because you're just giving them everything. They see everything. Like, there wasn't access to pornographic material like that. So the real only way they could see a woman in all her glory was in marriage, in sex, and consensually in sex, in marriage. I'm sorry. And so I think that's really what it was. I definitely think feminism is a part of it. I think welfare definitely is a part of it. If you look at the welfare rates around that time, and it's funny because feminism, welfare, all of marriage rates going down, all of this kind of stuff happened around the same time. So when you really look at it, welfare say incentivizing black women, you cannot have a man in your family, in your house if you want to get these benefits. If you want these benefits, you can't have him here. You got to hide him in the closet when somebody's coming to
hide his clothes and stuff.
Right. To, or make sure he's not there. And so what kind of thing does that do psychologically? And then if your children, especially your daughters, are seeing that, what does that do for them psychologically? That shows them they don't need a man and that he's not that important. And that if you have a man, he shouldn't be first, as in like he shouldn't be a priority because he can be pushed aside at any time. My money is more important than having this husband. And we have a lot of women chasing careers, chasing fame, chasing whatever, but they don't have a husband. So if you don't have the mindset of a husband because you didn't grow up seeing it, you grew up in a single mother household, you grew up seeing your mom push, a man away, or maybe have various men, so then you don't really come to appreciate men.
Right.
Because I think a lot of it is, well, men don't appreciate us. Okay, but do you appreciate them?
Yeah.
Are you showing them that they're important? Because if you have a new man every other weekend, or you have a roster, what is that showing your daughters? What is that showing your sons? Oh, I'm not important.
Yeah.
My mom she's not even trying with this guy.
Yeah.
Or whatever the situation may be. So I think all of that, I think welfare, I think feminism. I also touched in my book that I think it's Christianity going down as well. So this is a angle that I haven't seen many people talk about, but when I was doing some research, I was looking at this and I was like, it seems like Black American people historically are Protestant Christians, and if you look up research now, we are still the most Christian in America, specifically Black women. It's gone down for Black men, but specifically Black women. When me saying that, okay, Christianity going down in the Black community doesn't even sound right, because a lot of us grew up in the church, a lot of us grew up Christ adjacent, Christian adjacent, something like that. So it doesn't seem right for that to be true, However, although millennials and Gen Z are actually falling, with Black people is getting worse as far as like atheism and new age spirituality and all that stuff. So they're actually becoming one of the first generations to actually completely dismiss Christianity.
Wow.
But if you even look in the 70s, if you look at a chart, I show a chart in my book of like Black generations, like Generation X, Silent Generation, all that stuff. And Christianity, yes, in the 50s and the 40s and stuff, it was high, but it was still dipping every other year.
Wow.
And then when it got to the 60s, the late 60s, and like I said, the sexual revolution, all that stuff, it just started dipping in more. And I believe one of the important things is statistically, so I like to look in stats and stuff like that.
That's what I love about her. Like she knows what she's talking about. Like she's not, how like some churches they just talk like, no, like how the Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. No, she does her research. Like I love that.
I just have random questions in my head in the day, and I just look it up and see what's the stats about this. Yeah. But if you look at stats, religious people, so Christian, Muslim, Jewish, religious people are more likely to be married. But if you have a generation that every single year they're going down and down and down as far as they're leaving Christianity, they're leaving religion, then religion is not important. So then the tenets of religion isn't important. One of the tenets of Christianity, one of the things that makes Christianity special, or just religion, is that family values, having family values, having a strong family structure. So when we look at why I think everything starts with God first.
Yes.
You know how they say God didn't leave you, you left him?
Yes.
Well, when you look at the generations slowly dipping away from God for whatever reason, and then when you see feminism, and then when you see welfare, when you see materialism, when you see all these things basically taking the place of what God was, because once we leave God, we have to find another God. It's not like we leave God.
We always go from him to something else.
So it's not like, that's why when people, atheists, I don't believe in God. Okay, but you do believe in a God.
Yeah, you do.
You have
whether you
some faith,
or not.
right?
Yeah.
You have some faith, whether it's your money, whether it's your health, whatever it is, you have some kind of faith.
Yeah.
So when you replace the true God for other gods, that's when things go down. And then if you look at the charts, spirituality or Christianity in the Black community just continues to go down.
Yes.
And so I think I think that is an angle that I haven't heard many people hit, because Black Americans, it's just so in debt. It's so in us to be religious or to be Christian, but the outcomes aren't there.
Right.
The fruit isn't showing.
Yeah.
Yes. You can be Christian, but if we have low marriage rates, we have high divorce rates, we have high out of wedlock birth rates. We have high we have high STI rates.
Yeah.
Like something is not going. So maybe you're a cultural Christian, which means you grew up in this, but you never really took the chance to know God for yourself. Right.
Yeah.
Kingdom, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's really what I think, those three different things. And some people also say the incarceration rates and things like that, Black men going. I put that in a little bit nugget in my book about that. I don't necessarily think that's a big reason why. Only because if you're a marriage-minded woman, you're going to get married. So if black men are getting locked up, you're going to find another man. Now, statistically, black women are more loyal to black men. They don't want to marry outside their race.
Right, you're not.
Yeah, usually do not. More than any other race of women. But most cultures are that way anyway as well. But so there's a little nuance there. However, I still believe that a marriage-minded woman, if you know you want children, if you know that you want your children to have a father, but if you know you want children and you know you want them to be raised a certain way, you also, if you are a believer, you believe that God wants you to raise your children in a married household, you're going to get married. You're going to seek that somewhere else, whether it's in a different race of man. You know, whoever's available. So that's why I don't necessarily buy that narrative, because you may want to be with a black man, but at the end of the day, you have a biological clock. You have biology, and are you going to allow your biology to suffer because the type of man you desire isn't there? I don't think so. I think a marriage-minded woman, she has the mindset she's going to get married regardless. So that's why I don't necessarily believe that narrative, but that is a narrative that incarceration rates of black men in the 80s with the crack epidemic and all that stuff was a problem. So
that's good. I mean, I've just learned so much from what you just said. One of the biggest things that came to mind for me is how sin is not a small thing. Like, we all, like, people think that it's a small thing, but look what it evolves into. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's something people have to realize. Like, it's not just about not having sex. No, look what all comes from us. Like, not get married like God tells us to do. It turns into this, and it's only gonna get worse.
Right. It's a reason why God tells us not to do things. Not because He hates us.
Right.
Not because He doesn't want us to have fun, but because He knows the outcome of it.
He created all this. He knows how all this is supposed to go. If you don't do this, this is what's gonna happen.
Right.
Literally, Adam and Eve, literally.
There you go.
So that's some good stuff right there.
Amen.
Okay, so I heard you say a couple things. So you said that, like, it's not that the good men aren't out there, right? So where are the good men?
The good men are everywhere.
Okay.
There are good men everywhere. The problem is a lot of black women do not want them. Everywhere. They're in Home Depot, they're in Lowe's, they're in the supermarket, they're in church. Now, unfortunately, less men are in church, statistically, especially in a black church. However, there are some decent men in church. But also, and I would say, get your pastor involved, in that, or, your pastor, get them involved in whoever you may be interested in church. But, and of course, out in the world as well, like, get the pastor and your father, if you have one, involved. But they're everywhere. I just think we have to open our eyes to I think we need to focus more on character.
Yes, for sure.
Character is important.
Do not pay attention to the outside. That don't mean nothing.
Character is important. And honestly, if you don't women are inspirational. If you don't care for how he dresses, buy him an outfit.
Exactly. Yeah.
I always like the shy type of, like, just sweet, but also endearing type of guy that was intelligent. And so that's my husband. And but unfortunately, there are a lot of women who don't want that. They may want Tupac in a suit, and some men are not like that. Some men are not drama. They don't want to have drama. They didn't grow up in drama, so they're not going to be that for you. And so I think we have to understand what character is. Is he a hard worker? Can he work hard? Does he have a good job? Is he passionate about something? And is he working hard? He has some type of character in that way. There's integrity there. Okay, he's a hard worker. That's number one. Number two, do you have the same values? Or do you believe in Christ? Do you kind of see yourself together because you have similar values? That's how you're going to raise your children. Those two things, hardworking and values, are the most important. And then the last thing would be, are you decently attracted to him? Decently, I did an interview with this guy on my channel, and he brought that up, and it was like so true. It's like, yes, women should be attracted to a man, but he might have everything else, and you throwing him away because he looked like a Poindexter, or he may not have, like I said, that swag or that, that thing about him that may attract you. But think about all the times you were attracted by swag. What happened with that? What happened with that relationship? Right. Like, what happened to that relationship? So maybe God is calling us deeper into something else, because Of course, men are visual too, but what if every man threw a woman away because she didn't have a BBL or she didn't have the best banging body, but she was actually wife material?
Yeah.
You know, and so it goes both ways. Some men do the same thing as well. But yeah, so I would say character is the most important. In character, like Jesus, if you're a believer, Jesus was hardworking.
Yes.
You know, he had integrity. He had a passion for, you know, like Apostle said, souls. You know, he touched people, but he was hardworking. He was always doing that, right? He had good character. What was the other thing I said? I forgot. But it was hardworking and
a little bit decent, and then integrity. It was hardworking, integrity, and a little bit.
Yes.
Decent.
So he had integrity, values.
Yes, values.
That's what
Similar
it was.
values.
Similar values, because when you have integrity, you usually have good values, right? So those are the three things. Just be somewhat decently. Like, I can see myself waking up to this guy. And like I said, you can change the way he dresses.
Yeah.
You can influence him in that. I used to buy my husband in high school, I used to buy him Sean John. You know, now that's not good today.
Yeah,
but he's on trial right now. But, so it's not good today. But back then, that was what was popping. So I bought that for him, and he didn't wear. He wore like the collar shirts or the polo stuff or whatever. And then I would just give him the Sean John, and he would wear that. And so that was the end of that. Like, that's what being a couple is growing together. And if you want to mold him into something that you can see without trying to change him, you know, like, but you like, hey, you know, and listen, he's going to do it because he wants to be with you. Yeah. Right? And vice versa. Like, he might bring up something about you, and you're going like, you know what, maybe I'll try this. Maybe I'll wear that. Maybe, you know, because you kind of want to be adaptable so that y'all can get along and also so that y'all can be together, right? So as long as he's not trying to get you to do anything crazy and go against your values, that should be good. So yes, there's good men everywhere. But yeah, there's good men everywhere. You just have to look and you have to let your guard down. Yeah. Stop with the crazy list. Yeah. Okay. Stop with the crazy list.
Most of that stuff on there don't even matter. Like when you really get in marriage, like you like, you know what I'm saying? Most of that stuff does not matter at all.
It doesn't. Like the sneakers he wears, or the type of car that he drives, or
you know, internal stuff. I'm telling you, right? The muscles ain't gonna do nothing. Right. If he not emotionally strong, mentally strong. Girl,
yeah, that's so true.
So, okay. So, couple of questions.
Yes.
Okay. Which one do I want to ask first? Okay, so a lot of women feel like, okay, so I talked to some guys, which I'm doing a video with some men. Awesome. It's still going to be about women, you know, because that's, you know, the point of my channel. But so I asked this guy, I said, you know, a lot of women, the narrative on social media right now is if he's not treating you like a queen or how you want to be treated, just break up with him. And I feel like that's a little bit dangerous because I think that's unrealistic in how you're going to have any relationship like that, because somebody's going to offend you. You know what I'm saying? But whenever I was talking to him, I was saying, why does it seem like it's always the woman's fault? Like, no matter what happens, why does it seem like it's always the woman's fault? And he told me, and I was like, what? And I keep seeing the narrative that men hate women nowadays. And he was saying, well, they kind of do, because of the programming that they're getting on social media is causing the women to, you know, behave differently, kind of like what you said. So, I guess my question is, are we the problem as women? Like for real, like, are we really are we just not realizing that we are allowing the serpent to talk to us, and it's causing us to destroy our families, which is also affecting the community, because families build strong communities. Yes. You know what I'm saying? So, are we the problem?
I think we're part of the problem. I wouldn't say we're the full problem. The full problem is sin.
Yes.
In a Christian lens, the full problem is sin. I do believe that because, again, of radical feminism and all of that talk about you can do everything, you can be everything. You don't have to, you don't need a man, you don't need this, you don't need to be patient. We have a generation of narcissistic women. And I hear a lot of women say men are being narcissistic, but it's really just a backlash of what we've been giving them. Yeah. Because we have to understand that we are inspirational. That's a part of femininity. That's a part of womanhood. You ever heard, like, the man is the head, the woman is the neck that moves the head? That's an analogy, right? Yeah. So, for example, my son knows, one of my children know, that if they want something, they come to me. Because they feel like, well, certain things, not everything, but certain things they'll say, Dad, okay, Dad, don't give it to him, right? But then there might be something that he may want to do that Dad may not be so, like, and then he'll ask me to ask Dad.
Come on,
why does he ask me to ask that?
Yeah.
Because he sees that there's an influence there.
Ooh, that's
there's an influence there.
Yeah.
It was funny because one time he came to me, and my son is 5, and he came to me and says, "Does Dad do what you ask him to do?" Wow. And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, when you ask Dad to do stuff, he does it." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I mean, but I do stuff that he asks me to do too."
Yeah.
But the thing is children are observant.
Yeah.
They watch.
Yeah.
So if I ask my husband, "Could you please do this?" or "Could you please do that?" whatever, and my husband does it, he's like, "Oh, Mom has influence." So if I want something done that maybe Dad may not want, I need to ask it. Now, of course, if it's something that he shouldn't be doing, I'm not asking Dad. No, Dad said no, that's not right.
Okay, so let me ask you this though, because how do you, like, you as a person, how did you become a woman that he could trust to influence him? Because, like, some men, whether they, got it from their childhood and stuff, like, did you marry a man who you saw already respected the opinion of a woman? Or was it that, you just had integrity and he just realized that you had a certain level of integrity and that's why he trusted your influence? Like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which one is it?
I think because we've been together for so long. We've been together for high school. He's seen everything. Okay. He's seen the good, the bad, the in between. I was really immature in high school. So kind of we have grown together just as we have grown through the years, and of course becoming more mature now. Certain things that worked in high school don't work now. And also the Lord had to deal with me because the way that when I really got serious as a Christian, that was around 2015, the Lord was like, you need to change your approach to him. Because sometimes your approach is a little bit too much. And that is a man. And he is the man that I have over this house. So your approach can be a little bit too much. And I think as Black women, a lot of us are used to leading because we come from single mother homes. I come from a single mother home. So that is in us. Now my husband, he grew up with 2 parents. His father is in his life. There's a difference. Men with fathers are different. For sure. They're more chill. Yeah. They're less emotional. They're not wild. They have a certain balance. They have a balance. Dudes without dads don't. They have a balance. And so I think that helped as well. Because when I was definitely overdoing it when I was in high school and stuff, I think him just being balanced. We definitely are different. I'm more outgoing. He's not as outgoing, but he can be outgoing. But he's more of an introvert. And I think that coupled with his personality and how he saw his father and his relationship and things like that, that helps because they're more even. A lot of men who have single mothers, unfortunately, are really emotional. They're really, really emotional. It's dangerous for a man. It is. Men, I feel like our influence is really in what we say, you know what I'm saying? But a man can break a lot of stuff the way he does. So when a man does not know how to control his emotions, that's going to be a crazy situation. That is. And we have a lot of men who don't know how to control their emotions. They have no fathers. Yes. And I think, again, when your original question, well, not just your original question, but the question before about, are women the problem? We are part of the problem. I'm not going to say that we are all the problem. Even when we think of Adam and Eve, Eve was influenced by the serpent. But then what did the serpent, why did the serpent even come to Eve? Why not go to Adam? He couldn't go to Adam because Adam would have been like, no. God said X, Y, Z. He knew I have to go to the woman. The woman is inspirational. She's influenced. She will influence this man any way I want. So if we influence men to respect us and treat us well, and we carry ourselves like that, they will do it. That's what they did in the 50s and 60s because that's how they were able to have sex. That's how they were able to get families. No, you're going to marry me. And if I have a child because we're messing around, you're going to marry me. Wow. Right? Because the father wasn't letting that happen. The father, they were there, and the father was like, you're going to marry my daughter. So there were things called shotgun weddings, where if you got pregnant out of wedlock back then, you get married quick, and you go stay together and raise this family, right? That might be controversial today, but I think we need a lot more of those now. Because look at what has happened when we have allowed ourselves to just try to raise children ourselves, especially boys. We have absolutely we have no understanding how to raise a child, a boy, I'm sorry. We don't know how to raise a boy. There's a certain time where the nurturing has to stop. There's a certain time when he gets bigger and he is stronger than you. There's a certain time where your threats of violence will not work because he can overpower you. And if you don't have a man to balance that and be like, back up off your mom. Or, hey, calm down.
Oh my God.
That is what a man does. He gives the boy that rhythm. He gives the boy that respect. So when you have fathers not there, when you have women buying into the feminist nonsense that you can raise a child by yourself, you can do it by yourself, you don't need a man, you can focus on your career and not focus on your children, right? Then what's going to happen? So we're not fully the problem. We're part of the problem.
We have a role.
We have a role to play in it, and the enemy knows we're influential. Men would not be watching PORN if there weren't pretty women on there to watch. If all the women say I'm not doing it anymore, okay, well that would be a problem.
Oh my God!
Right? And now you can say, well, what about AI? There's AI robot women. Okay, but they're women. Still, they're still the image of a woman.
Wow.
A woman is influential. Our image is influential, and it makes men do things.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So one. Okay. A couple things. Okay. So one, when you were talking about Eve and why the serpent, I've never heard it like that, bro. When you talk about the serpent went to the woman because of her influence, it made me think about the same conversation I had with that guy. He said the reason why Adam did that is because he loved Eve so much. That's why he did it. So he's basically saying what you said. Like she had that influence. He loved her so much that he did it for her.
Yeah, but think about it. He loved her more than God.
Yes.
She became a God to him.
Wow.
Now that's wrong.
Yes.
It shouldn't happen. But it just shows you the power of the influence that women have. And when we carry ourselves a certain way, men realize that. There's a reason why certain women are always approached by the worst type of men. And then there's a reason why certain women are never approached by those type of men.
Tell us.
Because of the way they conduct themselves, their aura, their essence, the way they come into a room. Some men can just, a predator can see. A predator can see, okay, she ain't got no self-esteem. She probably ain't got no father.
Wow.
I remember hearing this man say that he would always date the girls that had no dad. He could just tell the way they carried themselves, the way they would. I know there's no father in their life because a father is supposed to be a buffer to the enemy, to the predator, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a father, what your mama gonna do? I mean, she can help, but a man is scared of a man.
Yeah.
The threat is not a woman. The threat is a man.
Oh my gosh.
Because they're strong. They're physically strong. They're violent. They can get violent. That's what testosterone does that estrogen doesn't have the ability to do.
Oh my God.
So when you don't, I literally heard him say that. I was like, wow, that is crazy. I even heard a predator say that they interviewed a man who molested kids, and he said, I would pay attention to the child that father wasn't paying attention to them.
Wow.
If I could tell like there was no father, no parent, nobody around them, and they kind of seemed like they lacked confidence, that's the one I would go after.
Oh my God.
So understand how important a father figure is in the life of children, women and men, right? And so that's really what it is. It's the influence that women we have. We definitely have an influence, and we need to influence men to marry us. I read a book called Why Men Marry Some Women. That's a what's it called? Like, it's not the full title. I can't remember the full title, but I look at this book all the time. But it's like why men marry some women and not others. That's kind of what it was called.
Okay.
And basically it was saying like the women who always got married, they would meet couples outside of marriage license places coming out. And they would ask them like, how'd you get together? That's how he came up with this book. And all of the women that were actually married required their husbands to marry them.
For sure. Yeah.
So what does that tell you? Influence them to marry. It's not that the husband didn't think he had a good thing. It's just that he might have been waiting around. Or maybe he was just like, I'm going to drag this. But a woman who's like, I'm marriage minded. I want to be married. I'm not here to play games with you. I will not be a baby mama, or I will not be just some casual lay. No, we're going to commit and we're going to have a family. Those were the women that got married. And not in the sense where they were like, dominating over them, in that way. Yeah. But they were just like, listen,
this is want to be with me?
Yeah.
You want some of this?
Yeah. And quite early on too.
Yeah.
Not like 2 years in.
Yeah, no. And you didn't know from the jump.
Right. Yeah.
Like if you want to leave, you can leave. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I will leave because I want to be married. And there's nothing wrong with telling a man that, hey, I want to be married. So if this is not what you want to do, fine. But we're not compatible. because that's what I want. I think it's really just women. We have to realize our influence. The devil knows our influence so much that he went to Eve. The devil knows our influence so much that he allows us to use our body, and put out explicit songs and, not wear anything. I mean, you have so many female rappers and singers just wearing pasties on the red carpet now. Stuff you wouldn't have seen back in the day. Like, you might have seen maybe one or two people do that, but everyone else would be covered up. And those one or two would be, like, controversial. That was crazy then. Now it's nothing.
It's regular.
It's nothing.
Like, oh, she look good.
Right. I think a man actually will respect you even more nowadays. If he sees that you're covered up, he sees that you're sweet and nice, he sees that you take, you take yourself seriously, and he's like probably more attracted to that because he's seeing a plethora of the other. Yes. Now. He's seeing the opposite so much more now that it's just like, So I think, a good woman, meaning like a woman that has the mindset, a marriage-minded woman, she can get swept up quickly and she will be able to find a husband quickly. But I also think she has to be able to discern that character has to be more important.
Listen, please understand that part.
Amen.
It's important.
It will come out.
Okay, so let me ask you one more thing, because you done gave me so much good stuff already. Oh my god, this video is so good. Like,
amen.
Okay, so I heard you say influence. That's like a really big one that I haven't heard a lot, like especially broken down like that. But what, why are women important? Like, I feel like, kind of like what you said, like, I feel like if you don't know where your influence is, you can't be a good steward over it. So I think that a lot of women, we just don't know, like, how important we are, or the areas of importance that we play, you know what I'm saying? So highlight for us, like, why we're needed, where we're needed, and all that good stuff, other than, like, our influence.
We're needed because God made us.
Yeah.
God made us, and clearly the order is man first and woman to help him. So we're here to help. We're important because all the infrastructure and everything that we have is because of us. Men are very simple. A lot of men, they will just live in a house that has nothing in it. Like, my husband says this all the time. Most men, if there was a bed in there, if it wasn't for you and these kids, I would just live in a house with a bed, have, a simple kitchen, and that's it. But we bring the extra, we bring the glamour, we bring the inspiration in that way, the decoration, the decor, all of that stuff. We have the child care centers because of our children. We have the infrastructure and the safe roads and the iPhones, and that, so we can communicate because of us. All the things that a lot of men build is to make us happy, right? To help us and to help our children. We're also important not just because God made us and we're made in the image of God and because of the infrastructure, but we bring life.
Yes.
Which is under attack. We have a lot of women who don't know their influence because they don't know that their influence on children. We're supposed to bring children in, and we're supposed to help mold them and make them. We parent them. We steward over our children. We raise the next generations, and we have taken the importance out of that to the point where stay-at-home moms are looked at as a villain. You want to be a stay-at-home mom? You want to be married? You don't want to work? You don't want to go to school? What? I would never have a man have power over me. Why would you want to do something like that? I remember I got married at 21, and I went and got a medical assistant degree, or not a degree, but a certificate or something. And a lot of the women in my class were black. And when they found out I was married, they were just like, why are you married? You're too young to be married. Why would you throw your life? Why would you throw your life away like that? Why don't you don't want to go to school? You don't want to do nothing else? And I'm like, some of the women that were saying that were like on their 5th baby father. And I'm like,
like, you looking at me like
I'm the problem. No, like, you need to reevaluate the priorities here, because you're having children. It's when we get to a culture where doing things God's way is wrong. That's where the problem is. That's where all of this came to be. We're getting married, having children in wedlock, doing it that way, the right way, God's way, is looked at as wrong, and having children out of wedlock, and every other day on the Shade Room a celebrity is pregnant, every other day something, then they're not married, every other day is foolishness. That is looked at as normal in the black community, but getting married, saving yourself for marriage, or just getting married. Okay, you may not have saved yourself for marriage, but getting married or getting married young and having children way off, that's weird. That's how you know the enemy is having a field day with women. Because again, our influence is powerful. A lot of men would not even think to do that. They even know certain men. They know certain women they cannot. Especially the predators. They know. Okay, I'm not gonna deal with her because she's wholesome and there's an innocence, a wholesome, but also a respect. She has a respect about her, and I don't want to break her heart. Like I don't want to even play with that type of woman. I'm not worthy of that type of woman.
So it's almost like it's safe to say the attack is on the woman, because if they can attack us, the influence we have on a man. So that's
it turns our influence around. And that's what the feminist movement did. It turned our influence around to something that God wanted to be positive, having children. And who says you can't have a career outside of the home? I'm a proponent of having a career outside of home when your children are of age, where they can do things, because I really think that we as women should focus on raising our children and focusing on them. But then when they get to a certain age, you can go work, you can do whatever. But I just think that we have flipped it upside down, and we wonder why marriage rates are down. We wonder why suicide rates are up. We wonder why depression is happening, because we have literally stepped out of what God has ordained for a lot of us. And we have girl boss feminism in the church a lot, especially in the black church. It's a lot, specifically because there's more black women in the church than men. It's a lot of conferences about bossing up, leveling up, things like that. Fine. But I want more wife conferences. I want more conferences of mothering and parenting, stewarding your household, the CEO of your home. If you want to be CEO of anything, be the CEO of your home. How can we make that a decent place? May not be perfect, but how can we strive in the right direction, that we're in our children's lives, that we are not distracted? There's so many things that we can talk about in that realm. And so I just think our influence has been, and the attack is on the man, really. We're, like I said, we're not the main problem, but we're part of the problem. The real attack is the man. The enemy hates men. He's been trying to kill men since the beginning of time, in every way, with Egypt and Hebrews, when he tried to kill all of the boys. Then when Jesus was born, he went and tried to kill all of the newborns, the 2-year-olds, or however they was, when Herod found out about them. There are so many instances within the Bible and just in the world where men are suffering, but they're suffering because we're not in order. Men are not in order, and the enemy knows to use the men's supposed to be the biggest ally, supposed to be the biggest asset. If I can turn the woman away from the man will suffer. And the man will suffer. Wow. And if I can have these generations and generations of boys and girls growing up in single mother homes, they're going to suffer, because single mother homes are more likely to produce prison. People are more likely to go to prison if they have single mothers. They're more likely to not go to college. You're less likely to make good money, decent money. Actually, married men make more money than single men.
Clock it. That's a fact.
That's a fact, because they have a family to take care of, And so there are so many things. Children who grew up without 2-parent married home have more likely to be depressed, more likely to have, ADHD and all these mental issues. Like, there is a reason why the enemy has been so hard after the marriage and after the right order. But it's really because of the man, because of that seed. Jesus is a man. I think there's disdain that Jesus is a man and all of that stuff. And I just think that he's always trying to go after men, but he does it with women. Now, if we were to change and say to the men, you can be somebody, you are strong, you are masculine, you are that warrior. Like a Deborah, when Deborah was speaking to Barak, Deborah said, go and do this. And then Barak said, I'll go, but you got to come with me. If you don't go with me, I'm not going.
I know, that's right.
And then she said, okay, I'll go. I'll go with you. But what she was doing was she was speaking, it was kind of like she was encouraging him. Yes, we can do this together. We can do this together. That's the message in that story. It's not that Deborah was a woman who was a leader. It's more about how the man and the woman came together to get the job done. So we have to, I think going forward, women, we have to realize who we are in Christ, realize that we were made for men. The Bible says in, I think it's 1 Corinthians, but it's basically saying that woman was made for man. Paul is saying the woman was made for the man. right? We're supposed to be the helper. And what are we doing? Clowning men, dissing men, complaining all the time about men, you know, making them feel like they're terrible. Right. Replace the man with ourselves or other things, talking down with our mouths, and our mouth, like you were saying before, our mouths are very destructive. And if we're just always like, you're nothing, I don't need you, your masculinity is toxic, you're worthless, you're not, what is that, is that gonna produce the type of husband that you want, or the type of man that you want? You're like, where the men are, they're waiting to be uplifted. They're not here because, or they're not able to be seen because so much complaining. You know? So that is the angle I get from. I think it's really the man that enemy is after, but he uses the man's greatest strength, greatest ally to tear him down instead of lifting him up. What would happen if we changed that narrative and started lifting the man up? How much further he would be and our families would be. But that's really what it is. And so that's what I think it is. I think we as black women, we grew up in these single mother homes. We grew up not seeing wifehood. We don't know that we're influenced with social media and culture and all of this stuff, media, and we just don't have enough propaganda for marriage. We have too much anti-marriage propaganda, too much anti-man, too much anti-family propaganda, and not enough happy married families and women and all this other stuff. That's what we need. We have to focus on that, because I think you are what you watch as well. Yes. And if you're putting in your mind, in your eye gates, positive images of family and of men, you will change. For any black woman out there that has an issue with black men or just men in general, for whatever, maybe some bad things happen to you, I would ask you to consider watching positive content. Watch The Cosby Show, watch Family Matters, watch any old school shows or anything that just, even if it's like trad white content, just watch something that makes men look good, that women are happily married. Find that and watch it for 30 days and see how your mindset changed. Maybe the reason why we're not getting married is because we're watching too much negativity.
You know what I noticed? Like, even just like, we used to have shows with families. Now all we have is like reality TV, and it's like baby mama drama. And even I was watching, I think it's like Blackish or whatever. And like the parents don't hug, they don't kiss. I was like, this is weird. Like, y'all be watching this, like y'all a couple, y'all don't even look like a couple. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's so true. Oh my God, like I could just ask so many more questions. Like,
we can do a part 2.
We're gonna have to do a part 2 because it's already been an hour and I want to let her go. But y'all, please check out her channel. If y'all like this conversation, please go check out her channel, because she got way more of this. And yeah, thank you for sitting down with me. Like, I literally feel so much conviction. Like, not just saying that, like, the way you just broke this down is crazy.
Amen.
Yeah, thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and be on the lookout for more videos.
Turn on the notification.
Turn on the notification bell. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, y'all. Bye.
Bye.